Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're building these townhouses that I did on my stream for the Plumbella Random Build Generator Challenge. This was my first time doing a challenge like this, and honestly, I really struggled. The building style of the house had to be townhouse, but it was supposed to only have one floor, and so I accomplished this by making it two-story, but then deleting the second floor, so it still looked like a townhouse from the outside, but inside it only has one floor. My disadvantage was that it had to be all base game, which you'll notice I totally flopped on for the first 10 minutes of building, and I built two Sims and a dog because I forgot that dogs are also not base game. I randomized the two Sims though, and they both got the dance machine trait. So I created this whole story in my head about how they were neighbors, and then they fell in love through their mutual love of dancing. So I kind of went with this yin and yang style townhouse. I had 5 rooms total, and I decided to split them up across the townhouses, so one has 2 rooms and the other has 3. Pretty late on in the build, I realized that the dog isn't base game, so I end up giving one of the Sims a roommate so that it houses 3 Sims. The other thing that was kind of ambiguous to deal with was that I was required to include a pool and the Fountain of Mirth. But the problem is Fountain of Mirth is that buffet-style fountain from the Luxury Party Stuff Pack, which simultaneously isn't base game and also isn't a pack that I own. And I'm not about to go buy a pack that isn't on sale anymore for a build challenge I was already struggling with. So you'll see me add just a regular fountain later to try and fulfill that requirement. The other thing I had to include was a pool, which was pretty easy as it's just a pool, but kind of weird to fit on the same lot as 2 townhouses. So I ended up making the townhouse complex really wide, but not very deep. So that way we'd still have room for a sizable pool in the back. Right now you can see me struggling with the columns. I really thought the columns would give a very refined look to the townhouses, but the column that I love to use is the Experienced Pillar from Get Together. And again, it's a base game build. So I spent so long trying to find a base game column that I thought fit the vibes. I eventually found one that sort of worked, but I still really preferred the Get Together one. I also had a lot of issues with that sort of octagonal outcropping of the build, especially when it came to the freezes. I really wanted to use the freezes because I feel like that's essential to a townhouse build, but man, they were so glitchy. Now I had the townhouses on this foundation, but I didn't want the pool to be raised like that, so I needed stairs in the back to deal with the differing levels. But I was really running out of room. I wanted to do this on a small lot because I really hate building on huge lots, but I was running out of room for the stairs. So I tried to create a little bump in where the back doors would go so I could fit the stairs in there too. Then I did matching doors on both the back and front. I gave the white door to the apartment with the black bricks and vice versa because I liked the contrasting colors. I did a similar thing with the windows, and honestly the windows took me a while. I tried these shuttered windows because I didn't want to deal with curtains on the inside, but I didn't like how any of them looked. So instead I went with these tall skinny windows that I placed literally everywhere. But I thought they looked really nice. Townhouse builds can be really challenging for me. I love how they look, but they need so many windows, and from the outside it looks really nice to have them all on a grid, just surrounding the entire build, but from the inside, it really limits your floor plan options because you can't have the walls go through a window. Especially since the placement of the windows can get as specific as quarter tiles, but the walls are still limited to full tiles. It's really easy to stump yourself with the floor plan. I only had 5 rooms to split across 2 townhouses, so I knew I was gonna go for sort of a studio apartment vibe in one of them, where the only room was the bathroom and then everything else. Then I was thinking the other one would get a bathroom, a bedroom, and then everything else. My color themes were red, orange, and gray, and I didn't take that as super restrictive. I know some people do the challenge where if your themes are red, orange, and gray, then you can only use items labeled red, orange, and gray. But my problem with that is that The Sims doesn't actually label things very well, especially with this Harbinger counter that I used in the bathroom. There are several swatches on there that are just straight up mislabeled. So in my opinion, if it looks red, orange, or gray, I'm counting it. Plus, it's a color theme. So I used red, orange, and gray as my starting points, and then I added more. Since I was making this as 2 townhouses for 2 people, I decided to have one be more red and the other be more orange, and then I'd play with the value of the gray. So in this apartment, we have more of a red and dark gray, or you might just call it red and black. And this is our guy Sims apartment. It just felt very bachelor-y. I feel like I know a lot of 20-something-year-old guys that have studio apartments kind of like that, although they tend to not go this hard on a color theme. But hey, I think it looks fun. In the kitchen I used quarter tiles, by the way, to create a nicer edge. If that wall had been there, it would have been a diagonal wall, and so I wanted the tiles to kind of follow a curve instead of looking really jagged. In case you don't know, you can use Control F to unlock quarter tile placements, so you can make diagonals like that even when there's not a wall. I struggled a bit with the wallpaper in this unit because the walls are stupidly high since I deleted the second floor, plus the second floor's medium wall height so we could have freezes. And I really wanted to use a wallpaper that had a trim, but any wallpaper that had a trim was then making the trim show up twice because the walls were so high. So I ended up going with this trimless, boring gray. And like, I'm a little bummed about it, but I prefer that than just having trim appear randomly in the wall. I was worried about this kitchen being functional because in order to have a sink, a stove, and a fridge, the only counter you would actually be able to cook on was that corner counter. So I did bring the Sims in here to actually playtest it and make sure that'd be fine. Most corner counters your Sims can cook on, but sometimes there's issues, so I didn't want to risk it. I thought about upper cabinets for a minute, but then that just looked ridiculous, so I didn't do it. I did give them a stove hood though, at least. There wasn't a lot of room left, but I wanted our bachelor to have a table he could invite people over. I also wanted some decor, like that little plant, but I didn't want it in the middle of the table, so I used the Alt key to kind of slide it over to the side. That way he has some place to like eat with her if he invites her over. I went back into the bedroom and added some clutter before I started the living room. I knew the living room was going to be really cramped, but I hoped that I made the hallway wide enough to actually fit it. That rug I thought fit really well. I actually was surprised it was base game. I feel like I saw that in a pack, but maybe there's a pack that just has something similar. Then I added that red lamp, which I swear every apartment I've been to has some version of that lamp. I put a little divider next to the couch so that this little study area might have some privacy. I toyed around with the idea of the telescope for a minute, but then I thought that was too much of a death risk. My finishing touches on the red apartment were just some last bit of decor, like that picture of Bob pancakes, and then some other kind of artsy pieces. Now, for as much as I wanted the left townhouse to feel kind of cold, I really wanted the right townhouse to feel very warm and vibrant. I went back and forth on this floor plan for a while, because I needed to fit an extra sim and an extra room in the same amount of space as the last one. Around here, by the way, is when I realized that dogs aren't base game. And so my plan went from having a sim and her dog in this apartment to needing to have 2 sims. And I really tried to fit 2 bedrooms in here, but I just could not make it work. So at the end of the day, they got bunk beds. I don't know 2 adults in their own apartments that have bunk beds, but it just was not fitting unless I did that. I gave them a very similar kitchen setup to the other unit, and then I really wanted to fit a living room in this little nook. I knew it was tight, but I really wanted at least a couch and a TV. At the end of the day, it looks a little bit cramped, but I think it uses the space well. The other thing I really wanted in this build was a desk, and I had hoped to put it in the hallway, but once I needed more room for the beds, it just wasn't happening. So I put it in the bedroom instead. The only orange swatches for bunk beds in the base game, by the way, are those orange baseball beds that used to be in Parenthood, and I was not giving them to my 2 adult Sims. So I went with these brown bunk beds instead, because brown is just dark orange. It fits. I was able to fit the desk in that kind of octagonal bump out like I wanted to, and then it still felt like the room was empty. So I added a dresser and a bookcase and a lamp. I fiddled around with some different rugs, but then I settled on that like circular one. And around this time I realized that the second floor did not match the bottom floor at all, especially in the orange unit because I had just swapped around the floor plans so many times. So I went through and like made them match. I'm using that fountain, by the way, instead of the Fountain of Mirth, and I'm just putting it out front so I don't forget about it. But for now, let's look at the pool. I wanted to do like a community pool, so I put down some tiles and then I put down these umbrella chairs, which I mixed and matched the orange with. I added a fence to make it feel more private and kind of separate it from the surrounding world. And then I wanted to do a little bit of landscaping. I feel like city townhouses don't really have a ton, but I figured I could at least give the backyard some bushes. Unfortunately, I built this in winter, so the bushes don't look very vibrant, but at least they're not like completely gone. Back to the fountain, I decided to put 2 of them in front and then surround them with these little bushes. It was the closest I could get to including the Fountain of Mirth, so I tried my best. Now this last bit is me just trying to use the rest of my budget, and honestly I'm so frustrated with myself. I realized while I was editing this voiceover that I totally messed up the money part of the challenge. When I started building, I cheated to give myself the correct amount of money, but then I started this build in an eco-lifestyle world. And about 10 minutes into building, I was like, oh no, I need to switch to a base game world. And so I came here and started over. But I forgot to cheat my money back. So I totally failed that part of the challenge. I did my best here. I was even hiding like flowers inside of bushes to try and get it exactly down to 0. Oh well, I'll do better next time. Lastly, here's a tour of everything. I built this on Twitch, so if you want to see me do these challenges live so you can actually hear my thoughts and maybe advise me when I'm messing it up, come check me out sometime. I stream weekly and my schedule's in my community tab. I had a lot of fun building this, even though it was totally out of my wheelhouse. I've done build challenges before, mind you. I've just never done apparently a randomly generated build challenge, and there were so many moving parts that I kind of struggled to keep in my head. But anyway, if you like this kind of content, like and subscribe for more. And as always, have a lovely day. Bye!